Yo guys, Ghost here, and today we're talking leaked playtest gameplay again. Just as I covered the jets in the last video, this time we're going to be talking about the helicopters of Battlefield 2042, how they're shaping up, what's changed from Battlefield 4, and all that good stuff. If you missed the episode about the jets, where we had a chit chat about those, the link is up there in the corner. So I've been lucky enough to have a playtester send me high quality footage of his time playtesting and also give me his personal feedback. And I was also able to request certain things of him to test for me, like looping around in the jets and testing the hover mode, for example. And he has sent me quite a considerable amount of heli footage, both from the attack heli and the scout heli. So let's delve in. So just like the jets, the helis really do look and sound pretty amazing. The whir of the rotor on top as it spools up, the noise of them flying overhead is really atmospheric. They really nailed that. And there's now also a rattle effect when you're firing the miniguns in the scout heli or the gunner in the attack heli is going ham on the infantry down below. You know, it just really adds to like the overall immersion of the game. So first off, in terms of maneuverability, all the helis seem to be much snappier, more forgiving, and generally easier to fly. They just don't quite seem to have the same amount of weight that they have in previous games. Of course, without actually playing myself, I can't be certain, but from the gameplay, this is certainly how it appears. From what I can tell though, the way you control the heli is the same. W and S for altitude, A and D for yaw, and then roll and pitch on the mouse. So let's kick things off with the scout helicopter, the MD-540 Nightbird, which was in use for both the Russians and the US. So in terms of weaponry, the Nightbird has the good old 7.62 miniguns that we all know and love. There is no spool up time for these, but just like most other vehicle cannons in the game, they appear to have a lot more spread now and are much less of a laser beam. Don't worry though, they seem to rip through infantry just fine. Now the new addition to the scout helicopter are the rocket pods. So you get 16 of these, and they do a pretty big amount of splash damage. Think like the 25mm cannon for the scout heli from BF4, pretty similar to that. From what I saw, it only took about 4 or 5 rockets to kill infantry, and they did pretty good damage against vehicles too. So with 16 of these, they're definitely way too good at the moment. It's basically like flying around with the 7.62 miniguns and the 25mm cannons from Battlefield 4 in the same loadout, only better. What's more, the new reload system makes them even more powerful. So if you weren't aware, Battlefield 2042 has a new reload system for any weapon with a salvo. If you fire off a few rockets but don't completely expend the entire salvo, the rockets you fired will already start replenishing one by one. Only currently, it is super fast and you can reload by about 3 rockets every 2 seconds. So basically, by the time you're done firing all 16 rockets, whilst you were firing those, you reloaded another 4 or 5 rockets, effectively giving you a salvo size of over 20. So that probably needs looking into because from what I've seen, the scout helicopter looks to be more effective than the attack heli. All helicopters also have the addition of an aiming reticle for third-person view this time around, along with a new zoom camera, just like the planes have in Battlefield 5. Now from what I've seen, the zoom camera is located under the wing, and it really limits your peripheral vision though, so it does come with certain disadvantages, and your best bet will still most likely be going into first-person view. For countermeasures, all the helis had the flares, the same as the jets, but the scout heli flare cooldown was only 10 seconds compared to the 12-second cooldown of the jets. The helis also get the module repair option, so all vehicles in Battlefield 2042 borrow from Battlefield 5's system where certain points of the vehicle can become damaged, rendering them useless, and this module repair brings those systems back to life again, but it doesn't actually repair your armor like it does in Battlefield 5. For seats, the Little Bird has 2 passenger seats that I assume you can fire RPGs out of and whatnot, although I didn't actually see any evidence of that. I also didn't see any in-flight repairing. Then there's a spotter seat which gives you a view right under the nose of the heli, very similar to the view you get as a gunner in the attack heli. And that's a good segue into the attack helicopter. Let's talk about those. So you get 2 of them. There is the KA-520 Super Hokum for the Russians with that iconic twin rotor design that you've probably noticed from the trailers, and then there's the AH-64X Apache Warchief for the US. So the pilot has access to a rocket pack with 10 rockets, and damage wise they seem similar to Battlefield 4's Hydra rockets, pretty good for taking out armour, but maybe not quite as effective against infantry. You also get a couple of AA missiles that function pretty much like they do on the jets, hitting for around 40 damage each. Then you have flares, same as the Scout Heli but with a 15-second cooldown instead of the 10-second cooldown that the Nightbird gets. And of course, you also get the same module repair system that every vehicle seems to have. Now if you do take damage and need to repair, 2042 has the Battlefield 4 system, where if you go without taking damage for 20 seconds, your vehicle will start to auto-repair, and I would say at about the same rate as the Battlefield 4 vehicles do. So the attack helis have a gunner seat, obviously, and as far as I can see, all you had access to in the playtest was the 30mm cannon, which seems to be quite effective against infantry, pretty similar to Battlefield 4's 30mm cannon. I didn't see any secondary stuff like tows, TVs or thermal vision, so I have no clue as to whether those will be in the game, but they could well be things that you unlock as you progress. Now one major difference I did spot is the reload system. So the gunner seat no longer has ammo. Instead, they are now using the overheat mechanic like you get with most of the vehicle ballistics weapons in the game, like the main guns in the jets or the HMG on a main battle tank. However, it did look like you could fire maybe 20 to 30 rounds flat out before the overheat mechanic would kick in, so this thing might actually be even better than in Battlefield 4, since you don't need to reload it at all. You can just burst down one infantry, give it a second or two, and then burst down the next. I also spotted some footage of somebody seat switching, gunning down somebody in the gunner seat, and then switching back to the pilot seat, and at least in the technical test, you can do that. There were no vehicle animations for switching between seats, and the heli just sort of hangs in the air and floats downwards like we're used to from previous games. Now this next point kind of applies to all vehicles in general, but I also noticed they now had bailout points. So if you do damage to a vehicle and the driver just bails, you're no longer robbed of that kill and those points. You will still get some sort of contribution. I think this is a great idea. You always felt like you got robbed in BF4 whenever a jet pilot bailed out in front of you, so I think this is a great solution to that problem. Another thing I spotted is that air vehicles do now seem to take damage from small arms fire. That comes as little surprise, as this has been in the newer Battlefield games for some time. The clip I saw was a guy with an LMG just letting this attack helicopter have it. It didn't really seem to have much of an effect, but if you have to wait 20 seconds without taking damage for your repairs to kick in, well, having an infantry soldier peppering you can be extremely annoying. So to finish up with here, I want to talk a little bit about the new jet-powered Osprey, or the MV-38 Condor as it's called in 2042, because this thing looks like it's going to be a transport chopper on steroids. It really is a flying fortress. At the moment it seems to be able to take a lot of punishment before it goes down. So basically you get two modes you can switch between, just like with the F-35. You've got full-on jet mode to get from sector to sector nice and quickly, and then you can hit Z to activate VTOL or hover mode and let your gunners enjoy a better positioning. I actually think the Condor might be a little too good, as it both has the ability to hover around an objective to let your gunners rain down fire, but also has the jet mode to fly around relatively quickly from objective to objective, and it acts as a team-wide spawn point. Now as the pilot, you don't get any weaponry, as is usually the case with transport vehicles, but you do have flares with a reload speed of just 7 seconds, so that's less than half the reload time of the attack heli, and of course the usual module repair with a 20-second cooldown. Then you have 3 gunner seats, a left gunner, right gunner and front gunner, and all of these guns are controlled from within the vehicle, so there seems to be no danger of actually getting shot out of this thing as a gunner. It's a bit more like being in an AC-130. The left and right gunner have miniguns, and then the front gunner gets some sort of a cannon that at least sounds similar to an AC-130, although I'm sure it won't be quite as powerful. Unfortunately, the UI in the playtest didn't actually display what those weapons were called, but yeah, all in all, this thing is looking like a ton of fun for squad play. So overall, I do see a lot of good things about the heli gameplay. The Nightbird actually has me the most excited. That thing looks incredibly nimble and agile, but I do worry that the overall flight mechanics of the helis are a little bit too simplistic. Honestly though, I can't say I'm surprised. I think that maybe only 10% of Battlefield players actually became decent at flying helis and jets in Battlefield 4, and the main reason was because they're fairly difficult to pilot effectively. So in DICE's eyes, they're probably thinking, well, we're putting time and resources and money into creating these vehicles and systems and having them in the game, and most of the player base aren't even using them, so we need to make things more accessible. Now, all of that said, as always, please do bear in mind that this is an early version of the game. Lots of things can and probably will be different in the final release, so take everything with a generous pinch of salt. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the helis so far. If you've been watching some footage for yourselves, leaving a like if you enjoyed the video is appreciated. Subscribe for more Battlefield 2042, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.